Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of the Habibis, three game developers drinking good Arab tea. I'm your host for this week, Osama Dorius,
And I'm Ram Ismail.
and we don't have a Fawzi this week.
We don't have a Fawzi again.
I am a little heartrucken,
It's very sad.
but it's completely understandable, you know.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm just sad.
Yes.
You know, Fawzi brings a little bit of chaos energy.
Absolutely. And heart.
And heart.
I mean, we'll get to it at the end of the
and he's just
episode.
good looking.
Oh, mashallah.
This is subhanallah.
I was gonna say we're gonna get to it at the end of the episode, but man, the story that he told about how he got into the industry and his progression, and then launching one of the biggest games in history at the end, and seeing it on billboards in his new hometown, that resonated with so many people. We had so many letters. Yeah, so we'll read those. This could be like a tribute to Fawzi, this episode.
This is just a tribute to Fawzi is already a good episode title. We're good.
I like it.
We're done. Well, this was a good episode, Joe.
The shortest but the sweetest.
Because we all like Fawzi, and that's it. That's the full episode.
That's right. So what about you, Rami? What happened in your week?
My favorite Fawzi memory is.
Oh, okay, share.
I played back a few years ago. Me and Fawzi were both mentors at a incubator that Google runs every year for developers worldwide. Right?
Oh wow! Where did that take place?
Singapore.
Oh, nice.
So we were both in Singapore, and we sort of ended up connecting there and just talking and just hanging out. Obviously, we'd run into each other, we'd known each other, but like it was one of those industry connections where you've talked, but you haven't really had the chance to sit down.
Yes, I know.
And Fawzi and I had a few chances to talk, but I think this was one of the first times we really had like some silly stories that were really, really good. And one of them is there was this game called Lethal League. You played it?
Lethal League.
Lethal League.
Is that the baseball one?
It's the baseball one.
The baseball fighting game. Yeah, I played a bunch of that. Game. It's a really good game.
Lethal League is great, and there was a talk going on by a mutual friend of ours, but also Fawzi and I just decided to play some Lethal League.
Yeah, and we all know how good Fawzi is at fighting games.
Fawzi's very good at fighting games. So we sat in the back corner of a room in Singapore, just with a laptop, playing Lethal League against each other. And that it got super out of hand. We both got super competitive, as we do, and then had a really good time just playing this game.
Who won?
I don't remember.
So probably Fawzi.
I don't know. I'm pretty good at Lethal League. Like, I'm not generally a fighting game player much. Yeah. Like I said, like Dragon Ball FighterZ is sort of like the one I play, and I'm pretty good at Dead or Alive, and I can play a bit of Tekken. Mm-hmm. But like the big ones, the Street Fighters and stuff like that, they're just not. I'm not good at those. Just not the way my brain does games.
I get it. you.
Mario Tennis Aces remains my favorite fighting game of all time. So we played a lot
Metal too, right? Twisted Metal is pretty good.
No, although I did recently play another game of Mario Tennis Aces, and I'm still really good at that game.
Oh yeah,
it's very good. It's just a very good game. Anyway, Lethal League. We played Lethal League, and then just had a really good time and like connected, and just ended up being a lot more talkative between the two of us. But it was just a really good time. It was just a very like both of us in our element, trying to help people, trying to give people opportunities where they normally would not have had them. Right. It's very much a thing that I think all three of us connect over, is that we all believe that this industry would be better if more people could make games.
Absolutely.
Right. And had access to the same resource, because it's not that they can't make games. It's just that they're making games on an uneven playing field.
Yeah.
And leveling that playing field is just a thing all three of us do. So
I like that title. Someone should do something with that, leveling the playing field.
Wow. Yes, I did actually. Now that you
What?
mention it,
You did?
yes, I could. I did not think about that. Yeah, no. My newsletter is called that,
Yes,
Osama.
yes, I
I,
know. I
I know you know. I know.
subscribed.
I know. But yeah, so just hanging out and seeing Fawzi do his work, and like helping people and listening to the talks he gives and the feedback he gives, and then playing some Lethal League. It was a really nice time spent with Fawzi. So that was a good time.
That's amazing. Well, my fondest memory of Fawzi is the time that we played Street Fighter not too long ago, and he wiped the floor with me. Because of course, between matches, we were chatting and reminiscing
Right.
and talking about like old fighting games and which are our favorite characters and which are the favorite games, and that
Did you know?
was
Did you
yeah.
two know each other before the Habibis properly kicked off?
We were what you described as the people who went to conferences together and said hi. By we didn't know
Right.
each other that much. You were the glue between us that bonded us together.
Right.
Like I remember at one point he invited me to a get together with designers, and then realized he couldn't invite me, so uninvited me on the spot. He's like, "Hey, a bunch of us are having dinner. Wait a sec, I'm not the organizer of this thing. You can't come with us. Sorry." It was, and I couldn't go anyway. Like, he didn't give me a chance to turn it down because I was literally on my way to my flight when he was saying that.
So he probably feels bad about it despite never having a chance.
I told him, but he's Arab. He probably felt bad about it anyway.
He felt bad anyway. Yeah, like, oh no, Malish, no problem. Don't worry about it. And it's like, I am so upset at myself.
Exactly. But it showed the kind of person he was, like super generous and welcoming. And we barely knew each other, and he wanted to hang out. And he's like, I'm going to this thing, but I'd love for you to come with me. So I had a very good, positive opinion of Fawzi even before we started the podcast. I knew who he was, of course. Yeah, there are not many of us in the industry, so I followed his career, like anyone else, my position would, and because of that, whenever I did see him briefly, it was very warm and like it was like catching up with an old friend in that way.
Exactly,
right?
Just a friendly hi. We understand each other probably.
Exactly. We're on the same team type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we knew each other already for quite a while at that point. But
we had even spent quite a bit of time together in Phoenix, if you remember.
Right. Yeah. Flying drones as two Arabs in the south of the U.S.
That was so fun. That was a really good moment. We did fly it outside too, but the memorable part was flying a drone inside your hotel room.
Right. Yes. That was I was not quite as good a drone pilot back then, but I think I didn't crash it.
You did not, and I didn't die. So
nice. Both of these things are good.
Exactly.
Drones have gone so much better. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I bet. I mean, they're a very new thing that advanced really quickly. So
that was a really nice day in Arizona as well. By the way,
it was. It was really hot the second day though. Oh, I still remember how hot it was.
Wasn't I still wearing my jacket?
Yes, you were. You were still wearing your leather jacket. And everyone was looking at you confused.
I could not use my Arab excuse because you were there.
I was there and I was burning up.
Like, this is too warm. I have that thing where having two nationalities gives you the ability to play different cards based on different situations. So if somebody's like, "It's cold. Why are you not wearing a jacket?" This is like, "I'm Dutch. We're used to the cold." And if it's hot and you're wearing your jacket, it's like, it's fine. I'm Arab. I can deal with the heat. That
was great. I didn't know that about you and your jacket at the time. And I don't know, for whatever reason, a few people there just assumed that we were friends for a long time before then. So, legitimately, some of them turned to me and said, "Why is Rami wearing a jacket?" I'm like, "Beats me."
I don't know.
Him. Yeah.
I just kind of always wear my jacket.
It was like 55 degrees Celsius or something ridiculous like that. It was one of the hottest it was legitimately like 112 Fahrenheit. I'm not good at conversion. Whatever it was way, way, way too hot. And the sun was like on you. There was not a cloud in the sky.
Right.
Yeah.
So great weather for a jacket.
For a thick leather jacket, yeah.
Just
absolutely.
a good leather jacket. No, I feel that leather actually is nice and that it kind of cools in heat.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, it's the same concept as the Jelabia, right? It keeps your body heat in. So if you were already cool when you wear the jacket and you go outside, it'll keep that coolness for a while. But that has its limits.
Not for me.
I guess not.
My jacket has a limit break.
I suppose
But yeah, that was some sort of design get together, wasn't it?
there a design get together. Yeah,
The
what was it? It
Arizona.
was an I Thrive thing. Remember that they were an
Oh
association.
yeah. So it's like solving certain issues through
Yes,
game design. Yeah, that was it.
exactly.
It
I
was
had a
nice.
great time, and I met
Yeah,
some
me too.
people that I had that later became friends and mentors. I had met them for the
Right.
first time, like Mike Sellers and Ian Schneider and
Yeah.
Ian Schreiber. I actually have
Yeah.
another friend who works in games called Ian Schneider in my head. Just
Yeah.
swap their names for a sec.
Just
But
that's okay.
but yeah, like industry luminaries that
Have
it was the first opportunity to meet them at that time.
have the three of us have never been in a room together, have we?
Nope, it has never happened.
We need to fix that.
We absolutely need to fix that. The sooner the better.
Yeah. I mean, what are we in? We were episode 47. We're almost at 1 year.
Yeah. So maybe we could do something for the 1 year celebration.
Who knows?
Yeah. I mean,
We'll be good.
Apparently, there's a new Omega variant of
Omicron.
the virus. Is it? Oh, what is it? Omicron?
Yeah, it's Omicron.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense. So let's see how well Omicron plays with
Right. Yeah,
travels.
for sure. Yeah, stuff is happening again. I was gonna go to the Game Awards, but it's looking a little less certain now.
Yeah, I was hoping it was Omega because at least that means that's the last variant and we can move past it.
Yeah, no, it's Omicron.
It's a
so we have some letters left.
We'll get there.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I think every time, like, it's obviously devastating that we're just doing the same thing again.
Yes.
But on the other hand, it seems like the world is sort of like getting smarter as well. Like, kind of looking at it and being like, okay, let's just do the things we were supposed to do a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll go a bit faster this time.
I do share your optimism, but it's a little uneven.
It's a very tired optimism.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's a very uneven application across the world. I know, we know people all over the world, and the reception or the reaction to COVID hasn't been the same in every country. Some are doing much better, some are doing much worse. So I'm really just hoping that we get wiser globally and everybody starts doing the right thing so that we can
it's the thing that really sort of distressed me about the whole COVID thing is you always have that belief that when things go really bad on Earth that humanity will like band together and fix the problem together. And then like for global warming, that had always been sort of my secret hope. Is that when things get bad enough, like we'll all band together and fix it. And then you watch the response to COVID and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
We're not doing that at all.
No.
So if the world can get a little smarter right now over this, maybe that ends up working in our advantage and that we understand that we should react to global scale problems with global scale efforts.
I would really hope that, like, I think a lot of the issues for this specific thing is that the vaccines are being politicized in some countries and not in others. And you can tell because if you look at the vaccination rates of the countries that don't politicize it, they're extremely high and their hospital rates are lower and everything is working out. Like the top three in the world right now are Gibraltar, Singapore, and the United Arab Emirates, who have all like 88 and higher vaccination rates.
Right.
And are doing well compared to other countries relatively. And then you look at the other side of the spectrum where political parties have used this as a rallying cry against people who are upset with the current government for whatever potentially legitimate reasons. But that is irresponsible because it creates a rift and everything else collapses after that. Yeah. So it's a shame that this is happening. But
do you know how things are across Iraq? Or
I know it's bad.
I think it's the same thing for Egypt. Honestly, it's
like I have my in-laws there. My extended family there. We get on phone calls once in a while and we talk about it. And it's like the hospitals were really jam-packed for a while to the point that when I ask them how's it now, and they're like, it's all the same. It's just it's not going well.
Right.
But hopefully that's going to get better soon.
Inshallah.
It's
strange times on Earth. It really is. It's also funny because this is normally like this is we went hard on this topic.
Yeah.
I mean, I like talking about serious things, but also I feel like by the time this comes out, it's a week past. Hopefully, we'll have more information and a better idea of what this Omicron actually is and does. And
That's right.
might be good to just pin this topic for when we know more, because
Yeah, you're right.
developing situation.
That's right. So let's talk about happy things, and the happiest
Happy
things in the
things.
world are games. Did you play any
Games.
games this week, Rami?
I actually my biggest gaming moment this week is not something I did. It's something Mom did.
Oh, what did Mom do?
Mom played a game in which a universal threat led to everybody coming together and working together to beat the universal threat.
Well, everybody with an asterisk, right?
Yeah, everybody minus the Solarians who were upset about curing the genophage. Mom beat Mass Effect after, and we checked it yesterday after 175 hours of gameplay.
Wow.
Across 6 months from May 15th to November 27th.
That's not just a defeating the game run. That's pretty close to a completionist run.
That's
Mom did everything.
Mom did almost everything except for that one mission in the Omega DLC in Mass Effect 3 where you can miss the couch and then just keep a quest open for the rest of the game that you can't close anymore.
I see.
That one. But yeah, no, she didn't. She beat it. She played Mom Shepard from the first mission of Mass Effect 1 all the way to the conclusion of the Reaper trilogy at the end of Mass Effect 3.
Well, Mabruk, Mom Shep.
Yeah, Mom Shep. Yeah. And it was lovely. It was a good thing. It was a good day. Like over 130 people came out to watch her on a Twitch channel and see how she like sort of navigated the final choices.
Wow.
She seemed to have had a good time. You know, like it's really Mass Effect 3 is one of those games that has sort of like a connotation in games because people have these feelings about the ending.
Mm-hmm.
And watching Mom go through Mass Effect 3 just made me realize that sometimes games are better when you're just completely unaware of the discourse.
Yes,
because Mom just loved the game. She thought it was she thought it was a little more finicky than Mass Effect 2, like the where you had to sit and how the cover worked felt a little less sticky.
Yeah,
and she didn't like that. But she really enjoyed the story from what I can tell, and she got the green conclusion is the one she went for. Mm-hmm. For those who don't know what that means and want to avoid spoilers, like that's why we're using colors instead of what they actually mean. But it took her 0 seconds to make the final decision, and she thought it was really good. My mom has a very specific emotional weakness for rallying the troops kind of moments.
Yeah,
but especially across different ideologies, motivations, all of that. So in Lord of the Rings, the sort of like the beacons of Minas Tirith, that scene where they signal the Rohirrim for their aid. Mm-hmm. That's my mom's favorite moment in movies of all times, I think.
That's amazing.
And she mentioned that the rally the fleet sequence in Mass Effect just gave her the same like vibes and even teared up a little at the scenes. So it was a good conclusion. I was really sort of nervous because obviously you sacrifice your Shepard at the end of Mass Effect 3 for one of multiple causes.
Yes.
I thought that might be difficult for her because that's not something that she's used to in games. Normally you win and you ride off into the sunset.
Yes.
But Mass Effect doesn't really do happy ending like that. Like something has to be sacrificed. Mm-hmm. I forgot that her first game was Final Fantasy 15, where your main character also sacrifices himself for a better world. So she was just like, "Yep, okay, this one." Did not phase her at all. She felt it was a good conclusion to the series. So
that's beautiful. I wish I tuned into the Twitch. Was it recorded?
Yeah, it's recorded. I saved the entire episode. Obviously, my mom does no commentary streams. She doesn't talk. She doesn't really like having to deal with all that. And usually there's people at her place, including me, where she just wants to be able to talk. Mm-hmm. So she doesn't really record audio with her gameplay, but the entire run is on my mom's Twitch channel at twitch.tv/momvsffxv. Mom versus Final Fantasy 15, because we originally thought she would only stream Final Fantasy 15, but then now she has fans. So Mom finished Mass Effect. That was really good.
They announced a Mass Effect TV show, or rumors, I guess. I'm not sure
rumors.
How confirmed it is.
I think they're pretty confirmed.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, they've been trying to make a movie forever, and that hasn't worked out. So I guess they realized that they can't do the movie, and that it needs a TV show for it to be able to fit all that content.
Yeah, Mass Effect is not a movie.
No.
It just isn't.
I mean, it could be a to be continued movies for like 6 movies, maybe.
Right. The Mass Effect cinematic universe.
Exactly. And I'm really curious how they're going to approach that, because like the whole appeal of the franchise, and many people have said this. I joked about it a little bit on social media, but many people have said this. Nobody's going to be happy, because everybody's Mass Effect is going to be a different story than the Mass Effect in the movie.
Right. Yeah, really, the only way you can do it is not make it about the big story.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. If you focus it in on like specific situations, then it could, like if you make a series about the STG on Surkesh, like that works.
Yes. So the Rogue One of the Star Wars universe, but
Mass Effect, if you just go Rogue One, you totally can do. Oh, Rogue One is so good.
It is. It's my favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah. No. Ugh. I always forget how good that movie is until somebody mentions it. I always forget that movie is until somebody mentions it. And then I go like, oh yeah, that was so good.
It was so good.
Also, I don't know if you saw, but they announced 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim for Switch.
Oh, someone mentioned it. Mitch Dwyer mentioned it on Twitter today. I was really happy to hear that. And it reminded me that I am about a third of the way through that game.
It might be worth waiting until it releases on Switch and just finishing it there, because Switch seems like a perfect platform for it.
Although it does, I think I don't want to start over. I think I just want to continue from where I left off.
Fair.
I remember like pretty well. Like the names of the characters completely forgot, but that happens to me all the time.
It might also be worth starting over.
It may be. But it's on my very long list of games I intend to go back to someday, and may actually do so, but probably won't.
Right.
Yeah. We'll get
Fair.
there.
How about you? Did you play anything? I mean, I think I played more, but I can't remember right now. So I'm just going to kick the ball to you and hope you do something smart with it.
No. Oh, no. You're going to be disappointed. If at any point you want the ball back, let me know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I watched 2 TV shows. I started playing 2 movies, and 2 games, and I continued playing a game. So I'll start with the games, since we're on the topic of the games, and we'll move back to the TV shows later. So I played one of the recommendations that you made, which was Inscription. Excellent game. I've played exactly 57 minutes, so I know there's more to come. I can tell just by the setup. It's a card game. For those who don't know what it is, it's a card game somewhat similar to like a simplified but also different Magic the Gathering. Like there are similar rules to it, but it plays a little bit differently. But it plays out in a cabin, and there's this like you're playing with this mysterious cloaked figure that you can't really see, and you're there against your will, and you're playing there's a board game component to it, and a lot of little mysteries and surprises and puzzles. And like you could like this is I don't know if this is really a spoiler, but you could like move around in the cabin. Is that a spoiler?
Yeah. No.
It happens kind of early, right?
Yeah.
And that's
there's so much to that game that is like it's hard to spoil.
Yes, and I'm already love card games. It doesn't take much to convince me to play card games, right? And just within minutes, I could see not what they were going to do, but they could see that they were doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And just after that, it's like this can go in so many directions. I'm so excited to play it. The gameplay is fun. Like the actual card game is solid, and everything around it is so interesting and intriguing that I really wish I took your recommendation and played this earlier, because now I feel like I have to rush it, because I feel it could be a contender for one of my top 10 games of the year. And, so I got to pick up the pace and make sure I get it done before the year is done, or at least get far enough in it that I can make an informed decision
for
about
sure.
it. So the other game that I played, which you also recommended, but I was probably going to play even if you didn't recommend it, was the new Ratchet and Clank.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm about 3 or 4 hours into that one, which I assume is about halfway through the game. I have no idea how long the game is, but maybe I assume it's a shortish game. It did the things I expected from watching the trailer better than I expected them to do it
From watching the trailer.
from watching the trailer. So
Yeah.
so far there's nothing in there that I didn't see coming, but everything was executed so much better,
Right.
and I'm loving it. It's a really good game as a result. So
I was just so impressed by the haptics.
yes, oh, they feel so good. Like literally, one of the things is that if you press the trigger halfway through, it shoots the gun in a specific way, and if you press it the whole way through, it like double barrels it. Like little things like that I haven't seen in games yet. So they're
Yep.
really using the platform or the PS5 in my case. I think it's a PS5 exclusive,
It
right?
feels like such a showcase for the
Yeah,
PS5, right? Like I mean the what is it, Astrobot
yeah.
game, Astro
Playground,
Playground, yeah,
playroom.
Astro Playground,
Yeah,
or Playroom, whatever it was.
yeah.
That game was a showcase, but Ratchet and Clank really felt like okay, and now for serious, right?
Yes. Like there, everyone. It's called a rift apart. So you know that there are these like rifts that take you to other dimensions. That's like in the all the marketing campaigns. The
Right,
thing is, I don't know. I saw this in the marketing, but it didn't click through. You don't jump into the rifts. You bring them to you.
right.
You bring the other universe to you, and that's such a small, like subtle change, but it feels so different.
Makes a difference.
Yeah, it's so good. Very, very clever. The writing is good so far. It feels good for an adventure game. It just feels like an incredibly well crafted game, and I could see a lot of Spider-Man in it. I don't know if you had the same feeling, but I could tell like Insomniac
Yeah,
has this
it's
like it's part of their DNA. They make games a
yep.
certain way,
Yeah,
and
it's a little bit in the flow of movement, isn't it?
exactly just a little
I
bit because
think,
it's not the
yeah,
same gameplay, but it just feels just enough that I could tell similar teams or
yeah,
like there are people who worked on both
yeah.
for sure.
No, there's a certain flow of movement that is very Insomniac-y, and then
Yeah.
there's the obviously sort of like their flair for spectacle
Yeah.
in movement
Yeah.
mostly,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and those were both there. Like Insomniac games are very Insomniac-y, which I always appreciate. Right? It's like my favorite studios tend to have a signature like that, and like like a Bungie or a Remedy or an Insomniac, all have that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Um, and I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, big time, big time. Okay, so I want to move on to the TV shows that I watched.
All right, let's go.
The first one is I am about halfway through. I'm 7 episodes into the new Cowboy Bebop live action movie.
Oh, I've heard a lot of talk about it, but I didn't watch it yet. I
Okay,
also don't think I'm going to.
it's okay if you don't, but
Okay.
I think you should.
Uh,
so, so this is my emotional path through the Cowboy Bebop live action. The Cowboy Bebop anime is arguably, possibly, if I spent time thinking about it, I think it's my favorite anime of all time. It's between it and Samurai Champloo, made by the same studio. Like that studio just produces some of my favorite like anime like content ever. I loved it so much so that, fun fact, I played the Cowboy Bebop theme song at my engagement party.
wow.
Yes,
Wow.
it was on the playlist, and when it came on, everyone had a puzzled look, and I was in heaven. I'm like, oh, like that's how much I love it. That
Yeah.
I'm absolutely in love with the anime. It's been a while since I watched it, but I used to watch it like every year. It was one of those
Right.
things that you watch back to back. And so the live action, I had really high hopes and really high expectations, and I tried to temper them, but I couldn't. And the first episode turned me off so much. It didn't feel like it was well directed. It was way more slapstick than I like. In my mind, even though there was a level of like it's anime, and that genre of
Right.
anime has slapstick like jokes and things like that, but in my mind, my memory of it is the serious parts. It's the fun parts. It's the action-packed parts. The slapstick was there just a little bit, and it didn't feel like it would translate well to live action, so I didn't really want it. And the
Right.
first episode only had that. It was just action and slapstick. There was none
Right.
of the deep moments, and I'm like, oh no, They
Oh
took the
no.
wrong parts of the anime.
Right.
That's not the part that made it special. I don't mind if it had some of that. And then by the second episode, it like kind of leaned into it more, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop watching this. So I went on the social
Okay.
medias and I said, I'm done with the show. And people are like, no, it picks up. I had the same arc. Actually,
I both hate that
yeah,
and respect it. But
yes,
okay.
but actually, the people were split. I have to be honest. Some were saying, "Yeah, I dropped it after the first or second episode," and others were like, "It really picks up at episode X," and they had different opinions of when it picked up. For me, it picked up at episode 5 or 6, and episode 7 was excellent. It was a really good episode that had the exact same tone that I was looking for that came from the anime, and I just wish they did a better job of like pacing it, because I think a lot of people are going to just drop and say this is a bad show and not give it a chance. I haven't finished it, so I don't like. I think they're 10 or 12 episodes.
It might still be a bad show.
It might be. So it might go back to what it was before. It might drop the ball in some points, but like there's hope. There's hope.
I mean, this is why I don't watch TV series. To be really honest, it's just I watched a very limited TV series with a set number of episodes, and then I wait until everybody has watched it, and then I listen to what people say and watch it depending on whether I'm interested or not.
That makes perfect sense, because like
I can't bring myself to bring the time to watch a thing. Like, remember Game of Thrones, where everybody was like, Game of Thrones, like there was this Game of Thrones craze for like years, and I'm just like, it wasn't really my thing, right? It seemed not very halal, but most of all, it was this big thing that was just this towering story with all these characters, and like it was going. I was like, I'm not going to start on this until it's done. And if it's done and everybody goes like, Rami, you have to watch this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and just watch all of it back to back.
I can't believe you got that gamble, because like it was really ramping up to be one of the best TV shows ever, and kind of dropped the ball.
That happens every time. Yeah, it happens every time.
It happens often. I have a very special relationship with Game of Thrones, because I was a fan of the books like millions of years ago. I read the books when the third one was out. So when the third one was out, I read book 1, 2, 3. Then when the fourth one was announced, I read 1, 2, 3 again in prep for the fourth. Then when the fourth came out, I read 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when the fifth came out, I repeated the cycle. So I must have read the first book in the series 7 times, maybe. I was obsessive about all the details and the characters. I knew like everything about them. And when the TV show came out, I had low expectations, very low.
I can imagine.
And it was excellent. And the change, I loved everything they changed, even because the book had it's a branching narrative. Every character has a branching narrative that like. It seems like a million things are happening. I said branching narrative, that's a wrong term, but like it feels like a million things are happening behind the scenes. It's a tapestry of lore from each character, and just to follow it and keep up with it and be like, which one is the main timeline? You don't even know who the main character is several books in. You're like, everyone could be a main character. They're all important. Oh, this one's the main character. Oh, he died. This was the main character. Oh, she died. Like that I've never seen anything like that, where whenever like
I don't understand how you're not the biggest Destiny nerd.
I don't
This is exactly how Destiny storytelling works. So
I don't know, but the thing is, it's not that I dislike Destiny. I played the first one briefly, only like multiplayer with friends.
Right.
But when the second one came out, I played the main content. I loved the feel of it. Like I really do. It's one of the best shooters in terms of feel. Not too big of a fan of floaty jump physics. So I played those.
Play a hunter, you'll feel like a brick.
Yeah, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should switch classes.
If you play a hunter, is basically like you get the Mario jump, but like with a double jump.
Yeah, maybe I'll do
a triple or a quad.
Because like that's the thing. I play a lot of shooters. You know that. Like I jump from one shooter to the next, and I don't actually stick to
if somebody ever like combines a shooter game with a fighter, like you're done.
Oh hell yeah, absolutely. That was actually the pitch that they made me when I went to work on Ubisoft for Honor. They're like, it's a fighting game, but it's set up like a Call of Duty. Like,
you know what? Like, that's not a terrible description.
Yeah. That's exactly the because I went to work there before they announced the game, so I was like, and that was the pitch they made to me, and I'm like, sold. I'm in, because those are two things I absolutely love, absolutely. So but like to bring it back to Game of Thrones and I also
TV
started
series.
watching the Wheel of Time. I wasn't going to talk about it because I only watched the first episode and I didn't like it so far, but I'll give it a little bit more time.
All right,
I
fair.
had the same reaction to the books. I read halfway. I don't remember if I finished the first book or not, but there's like 15 books. So whether I finished the first one or not is inconsequential. I never made it to the second.
Right.
So I don't have that attachment to Wheel of Time at all. And so far, I'm not big on the TV show. So we'll see. The other show I wanted to talk about is the new MCU one.
I have not watched it yet.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
shocked. Hawkeye.
Yeah, I know. I just
Hawkeye is not your favorite
so
Avenger.
it's not even that Hawkeye is not like, even though I have some problems with Renner, like Hawkeye is fine.
Yeah.
It's just I really didn't feel like a sort of like weird Christmassy thing. I don't know. I got a little tired of the aesthetic, and the marketing really pushed on that, and I'm like, oh well, just get to it at some point.
That's completely fair. I was unrealistically excited about this because Hawkeye is not my favorite like Marvel character, even from comics, even before the MCU existed. I always thought it was very silly that you would have, a guy with a bow and arrow. Like of all the
Right.
things you're going to give him, it's a bow and arrow.
Right.
It didn't really. The one thing I loved about the character that the MCU up until this point completely ignored is that he actually has a hearing impairment.
Right.
He uses a hearing aid, and the MCU just never gave it a nod, or I don't remember if it ever gave it a nod. But
I don't think it did.
in this show, you see it like right away. The thing is, one piece of content, one comic book that changed my mind was a Hawkeye series, a story run that happened. When was it? Was it 10 years ago? 15 years ago? Um, who was it? Hold on, I have to let me look it up just so I have all the details.
Yeah. Take
But
your time. I'm just gonna make some elevator music in the meanwhile.
it was a limited run that they had. It had a very specific art style. What was it called? Whatever. I'll put it in the show notes. It doesn't matter. So that comic book, that graphic novel, changed my mind. It was recommended by my friend Nick, who's really really into comics, and he's like, "Read this Hawkeye book." I'm like, "I'm not into Hawkeye." He's like, "Neither was I before this." That run kind of showed Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, the new Hawkeye, and how he was training her and all those things. That's the run that they based this TV show on. So the only piece of Hawkeye content that I liked, loved actually, what was this TV show was
What
going to be
this is
based on.
based on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was like the only way they were going to get me to to watch this, and it mostly translated well. So
Right.
that book had a serious tone with a little bit of I don't want to say slapstick, but it just like it's self aware in a way, right? So there's this gang of Russian mobsters who wear Adidas type track pants who call each other bro all the time, and in the comic that actually translates and sounds really really fun, right? Really good. In the greater world of MCU, it felt even sillier than the silliest MCU movie in my opinion, which was Thor Ragnarok, which
Right.
was my favorite, but mind you, but it pushed that needle a little bit further. So,
Hmm.
in my opinion, it was good. It was funny. It wasn't MCU, and I'm not sure how. And I didn't mind it because it was based on something I loved. It's kind of what I expected. I saw it coming.
Right.
I don't
Right.
know how people are going to react to it. I'm curious to see if it landed well, because when
Okay.
you push a needle in one direction or the other, there are people who are going to react one way or the other.
And want to go the other way. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I will watch it. Like it's MCU stuff, and you know me. Like I like the way they've structured their storytelling, and it's just a fun thing to keep watching, and I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one I just don't feel like a Christmassy thing. It's nothing against Christmas. It's nothing against Hawkeye. It's just I'm so tired of that setting. Like
Yeah.
we're still waiting for a Ramadan in Animal Crossing. Here we
It-
go,
it's coming
another
in the
Christmas thing.
second DLC. I bet you. That's what they're waiting for. Number two.
The one that they're not going to do because they're done updating Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
one.
that's the one.
That's the one. That's where it's in. Nice. Finally. We have a release date. It is. Oh, never.
Never.
Never. But yeah, I don't know. Like One day I'll watch this, or I might just pick it up just to have the annoyance out of my head and just be done with it.
Yeah.
Um, but
But
yeah, I
all
don't
right.
know. I'm excited for Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah, super excited for Spider-Man. I haven't watched Eternals yet. Me and my wife were supposed to watch it last weekend. We got super busy. We took my daughter and her friends to go watch Dune.
Oh, I
For
still
me,
want
it
to go
was
watch that.
yeah. For me, it was the second time. For her, it was, like for my daughter and her friends, it was the first. But I was hoping to convince them to watch Eternals because I'd seen Dune already, and even though it was really good, I wanted to watch something new. I
Right.
failed to convince them, so we're gonna try
Well,
again.
that's not the worst. That's not the worst. Like that's a pretty good opinion from the people involved
I actually
to go
liked
to
it
June.
better the second time. Uh,
I can imagine it's a big movie.
yeah, it was
If you
like I
know
was
what to
able to see
expect,
more
it's probably
details.
better. Yeah.
Exactly. The last thing I wanted to mention is that I'm nearly finished, or I feel like I'm nearly finished with It Takes Two.
Oh,
And
okay. I didn't know
yeah,
you didn't play that yet.
no, I had it. It came out. I got it. Actually, my friend Bilal bought it for me. He's like, "Here, play this with your kids." And I'm like, "Okay,
Okay.
I will." And we were already playing the Unraveled, which was like another co-op game. So I was waiting
Yeah,
to
yeah,
finish that game. We actually got stuck in a puzzle after a while, and I'm like, "Hey, let's try It Takes Two." And I jumped in, and oh my god, it! I think it might be my game of the year. I think it might.
Oh,
It's
okay.
very, very close. It
Okay.
is
Okay.
something else. Like it's an incredibly well crafted game, but it's possibly the best co op game of all time. It is so I can't think of a better co op game, like a game that just works with the strengths of what co op is. I mean, Left 4 Dead was pretty damn good, so maybe it's second to Left 4 Dead. But oh my god, was it ever a really good co op game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's good. It definitely didn't hit game of the year levels for me, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay, that's good. But did you play it alone? Did you play with someone else?
No, no, I played with somebody.
Yeah. Well, okay, so good. We had different
It was
experiences.
good. Yeah, no, it's really good, and I think the co-op was really well done. I just
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. The narrative didn't quite work for me, and the world was fun, but not like I don't know something sort of like was pushing back on me
Huh.
loving that game.
And that's
And
totally fair. To be quite honest, the narrative wasn't for me either. My
right,
daughter absolutely loved it. She was super
yeah,
like I was playing it with my 8-year-old daughter, and she
I
was
can see that.
super engaged, asking about the different like the emotional arcs of it, and saying why did they say that? Oh, this must mean this. Ah, that was and laughing at the jokes. Like the jokes
Yeah,
didn't hit for me, so I think maybe that is really pushing my opinion
I
a little bit.
believe I 100% believe that.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it still it doesn't take that away. Like it doesn't take away from it. Like her enjoyment of it, it's
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I played it with more of a peer than a kid,
uh,
so maybe that was a difference there.
valid.
Um, but yeah, it's fascinating. It's fun to hear. Maybe I'll give it another look, and give it another go.
Yeah, no, I knew what
Uh,
to expect, and it's still
Right.
it was better than I expected. So
I finally jumped back into Destiny. I've given that game a bit of a break if we're talking about co-op anyway.
yeah, of course.
But yeah, I jumped back into Destiny. It's been a while because the people I normally played with, that group sort of split up. Yeah, it meant that I had to go play alone, which I was just felt like a wall. You know,
Really,
if you have a game that you play with the same people and then you have to play it alone, it's just it doesn't feel the same anymore.
yeah, I can imagine.
Um, so yeah, no, I booted it back up, and yeah, it still feels emptier, but I'm now just sort of like playing with whoever wants to play at that time.
Okay,
So I don't really have like the same people all the time,
how is
and
that?
it's a different experience.
Okay,
It's fun because I'm a massive Destiny like nerd.
hmm
So you know, I there's always a story to tell or something to talk about. But it's not the same like kick back and relax kind of way of
hmm
playing now.
hmm
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure yet how I feel about it, but it's nice to be back in the world and sort of catching up on the story. The 30-year anniversary stuff is going to kick off relatively soon.
hmm
And I wanted to make sure that I'm up to date on the story before that goes down.
Understandably.
So yeah, I'm catching up on the story, and I'm almost back at where the story currently is, and it's a very exciting. It's a very exciting progression. I think after that, the narrative will sort of like pause
Mm-hmm.
for the 30-year anniversary stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then continue near February. So it's a very long season as they had to delay the next expansion. So it's just the narrative isn't supposed to be stretched this far, but it works. Like we're just waiting. Like everything is ready for big things to happen. Um,
I,
or at least in my game, almost. But anybody who is not up to date yet will have until February to catch up.
like, I don't know if you could answer this question briefly, and if you can't, just say no, Osama. That deserves its own episode. Uh, Destiny is an excellent game. What
Right.
makes it one of your favorite games of all time? What about it, it
I,
makes it stand out?
I think it's a combination, but I think the biggest thing is that Destiny does two things that I really love, which is both Bungie like trademarks, right? Like the first one, and the reason I loved Halo back in the days is just very clever game design, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very clever loops, very clever like feeling for like when skirmishes should happen, when scenarios should happen, when there should be breathing room, when you can make like an emotional gut punch, big fights, small fights, fights with skill, fights that are intimate. Bungie seems to sort of like excel at making shooter gameplay meaningful,
Mm-hmm.
and making it feel good, right? Because like you can go and pick a random shooter and have a shootout, and they might have pretty good like pacing for their fights, but somehow Bungie always nails that sort of like breathe in, breathe out feeling
Yeah.
of game design, right?
Yeah.
And they just vary how big you breathe in or how big you breathe out. They just nail that. And the second part is they're sort of like I hate the word decentralized at the moment, but it's sort of like a decentralized method of storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's the big story, and the big story in Bungie games is always so simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Halo, it's like big green man stops giant ring from destroying universe,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's it. That's the story. If you want to summarize Halo's story, it's man stops weapon of mass destruction.
Okay.
And Bungie is the same thing, right? Like space zombies stop darkness.
Yeah.
But then where the real story of a Bungie game tends to happen is in the lore,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Halo had like stupendous amounts of lore,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so does Destiny,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can learn about the world of Destiny and its characters and sort of like the places that you're playing and the places that you aren't seeing in the game. All of that, you can learn about that forever.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something new. I have like 4 books sitting in my living room with just Destiny lore.
Wait, they're storybooks or just lore
They're
books?
storybooks. They're lore.
Okay.
They're lore books.
Okay, wait. I mean, is it
Lore books? Yeah, they're
wow,
lore
just
books.
lore. Wow.
It's just lore. Each of them from a different faction or group or time of the Destiny universe. So you can talk about this forever. Like, and this is why I enjoy playing with different people sometimes, is because you'll play somewhere and I'm like, hey, look at that. I can tell you the story about that, and then I can tell that story.
That's
Right.
That's cool.
And I enjoy that. I enjoy bringing people in. And then I think that the final thing is it's a really good memory generator, like beating a big raid or, seeing somebody beat a dungeon for the first time or getting an exotic item that they had been hunting for or whatever, like getting a really good roll on something. Those are really good memories. And I don't think I've played any game that is as good as generating those as Destiny is so incredibly consistently. So
Okay.
um,
Those are very good reasons.
I just love the game, and it's a really good end of day like kickback kind of thing to do. Like just play Destiny for an hour, and it's nice. Punch some stuff. I'm a Titan. I punch. If you're a hunter, you can wear a cape. It's also cool.
Of course. Well, yeah, thank you for that. I still think one day we're going to need an entire episode dedicated to the lore of this.
Yeah, as soon as you play a bit.
I played a bit. I saw a robot guy get shoot in the face, so that's something. I assume it's the face.
It was shot in the chest, but
Oh, but, I was paying attention. I swear.
Clearly. Anyway,
So
he dead.
he dead.
That's the important thing.
Exactly. All right, so I got something. I got three
Okay.
somethings, and those
Three
somethings are some
somethings.
of my favorite somethings that I like
Emails.
to get. Emails, you got
You got emails. Yes.
it. Exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna jump right in. Actually, before jumping right in, I wanted to say how all of these emails have a pretty much a common thread, and that common thread is our favorite Habibi, Fawzi. His
Fauzi.
story touched so many people. It's like the story that he told in the episode right before he left us for 2 weeks. So I guess he made a
Yeah,
dramatic
Habibi.
exit. Exactly. So the first email is by Ben, and Ben says, "Hi guys, I just want to say congratulations to Fawzi on the game release, but also thank you to all three of you for all the stories of highs and lows in your career. I made the mistake of tying my career progression to my sense of self worth, which is something we talk about here often, which was fine in the good times. But after
Mm-hmm.
migrating and having to start from scratch, the last few years have been very difficult. I think I
Mm-hmm.
needed to hear that people can be happy even if their path takes them unexpected places, even if things aren't great for a time." Uh,
Yeah.
wow. Like, honestly, in my career has had a lot of highs and lows. I've had two big burnouts and possibly dozens of little ones because, who even can keep count at that point. And during the burnouts, every single time I contemplate leaving. Even though this is an industry I love, I'm very vocal about how much I love it and the
Mm-hmm.
people in it and everything. Whenever you get low, that low, um, you start thinking about these things. You start thinking about, is there something else for me? Can I not do this to myself? Is there a way I could approach this where I could get the stuff I love and not have to, like hit rock bottom in this way? And each time, one of the biggest struggles of leaving is that it's so tied to my self worth. I'm like, what am I if I am not a designer in the gaming industry? What am I? What can I do? So, like, I think it's really important to have like friends outside the industry if you're in the industry, hobbies that have nothing to do with games. Like in my last
Right.
burnout, I picked up cooking for the fun of it, not cooking to eat, but cooking like things I've never tried to do
Yeah.
before.
It's so fun. So many people in the games industry end up with cooking as a hobby. It's also one of mine. So
It's funny because cooking has a lot to do with game design. It's
it's
like,
very similar.
yeah, you throw ingredients, you don't know what's going to happen, and then you tweak the recipe, and then it gets better over time, and
It's a
people
little
enjoy it.
iterative, it's a
Yeah,
little process based.
exactly.
It's a little bit of intuition. I
Yeah,
don't like baking as much because
yeah,
it
me
feels
either.
too sciencey to me.
Yeah, I'm
It's
the
like
same.
too precise.
I love eating baked goods, but that's a different
Oh yeah,
story.
no, great. I'm Dutch. Like the Dutch can't cook, but they can bake like nobody's business. The Egyptians can do both.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm an inverted Dutch person.
Oh
I
no.
can't bake. I can't bake for the life of me, but I can cook.
Oh yeah, that works. um,
But yeah, I think you really touch on a good point. It's sort of like that social circle and life outside of games, which is honestly something that I've done wrong frequently.
mm,
And a lot of the close people in my life have often been from games, which just means that if things are bad in games, then they're just bad everywhere in my life.
yeah,
I actually think Flight Class has been really good for me in that way, that I have a social group outside of games.
yeah,
And I don't have a lot of social groups outside of games. You know, when you travel all the time and you're working all the time, it just kind of automatically becomes games are life. And I can really imagine the email writer's sort of like feeling of not of attaching your self worth to your work. If your work is so all encompassing in life, it's really hard not to.
yeah. You almost
But yeah,
need like a hobby, something outside of
yeah,
games to make friends, because the reason we make most of our games within and most of our friends within games is because we make most of our friends from work relationships.
right,
Like, I mean, not just us, but people in general. That's where most of their friends come from. Unless you kept tabs with people who you went to high school or college with, most of your friends are going to come from that. So
yeah,
you
for
almost need a
sure.
hobby to introduce other people into your life anyway. So maybe
Yep.
there's that. Because like my friends who are not in the gaming industry are college friends that we used to play board games with. Funny enough, two people from that specific group have since joined the gaming industry, but that's aside. That's not something that
That's
happens very often. It's just in
that's just
Montreal.
your influence,
Yeah, yeah, it's also in Montreal. Like,
right? Right.
it's more likely. All right, how about we move on to the second email?
Sure, let's go.
So this is an email by Kristen who says the episode titled "Unpacking Time" resonated with me on a massive level. Hearing Fauzi discuss his journey and being able to maintain a beautiful sense of self and generosity is amazing and inspiring. I've often also had it in my mind to be able to look back at everything I've done that has led me to where I am and to see it as a line. As steps, I don't want to look back and see one big thing and that launched me up. I want to see all the small steps I've taken, all the progress. That's beautifully put.
Yeah.
And you see another Fauzi influence on that. So Fauzi, thank you.
Yeah, I mean it is funny, right? I think we talked about this a little in that um, the these kind of lines are odd in that if you try to extrapolate them forward, it'll never work,
Yeah.
right? You're just setting up yourself for disappointment if you do it that way, because life takes these weird turns and
Yeah.
twists,
Yeah.
big things that like help or that punch you down, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so I've kind of found, and I've kind of come to believe that having sort of a vague idea of where you want to go is probably better than having a really like set, firm place that you need to end up in to
Hmm.
feel good.
Hmm.
But then looking back, there will always be a line, right? Just isn't always the dots that you think it will be.
I have a story I wanted to share on this topic.
Okay,
I'm
go.
gonna leave the names out of it, so I'm just gonna be a little bit generic because I don't have permission to
Hmm.
share the story with the details. But a friend of mine who I worked with at one of the major companies, he his whole life he had his goal to work for a specific big game developer, a specific one that he named. I remember for the first time, almost the first conversation I've had with him, he's like, "I'm going to work here someday." And he was really smart, so I had no doubt that if he applied himself, he would get that job, and he did. While
Right.
working together, one day he announced, "I got it. I got the job. I'm gonna move to such and such place to start working at the company. I've made it. This is it. This is what I've always wanted to do." So the person starts, and I kept in touch with him. After about a month, I asked him, "How's it going?" He's like, "Amazing. It's everything I ever hoped. Everyone here is brilliant. I love it. It's the best thing ever." I'm like, "Good. I'm super happy for you." I checked in a couple of months later. I'm like, "How's it going?" He's like, "Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I like it a lot." I checked in about 6 months later. I'm like, "How's it going?" He's like, I'm starting to like see some of the problems here. It's still pretty good. I still like it, but there are some things here that I would like for it to be different." I checked in about a
Right.
year later. I actually came back to Montreal and we had lunch. And I'm like, "So how's it going?" It's like, "It's the same everywhere." I'm like, "What?"
Right.
It's like, "It's the same everywhere. There are problems. There are good things. There like some companies like we or some institutions, we build them up on a pedestal because they made that beautiful thing that we love, or they're really good at branding, or
Hmm.
whatever reason." 3 years later, he left his dream job, the job that he always wanted to be in. And when he left, he wasn't unhappy. It wasn't a bad place. It was just that the magic was gone. The thing that pulled him towards it, he started seeing behind the curtain, and he realized it was a company like any other. And because it was a company like any other, now he can move on to another company and actually look at, like weigh other benefits and conditions and like his role and his
Hmm.
salary, and not
Hmm.
just have this goal, which is work for this company. And that's a life lesson. It was a life lesson for me because I had a couple of companies on my list of companies I always wanted to work with. For me, it was at the time early in my career, it was Capcom and Square Enix. They made my Street Fighters and my Final Fantasies. I can't. I want to work on those franchises big time. And
Hmm.
after that, I was like, you know what? It's fine. I could build something new. I could work with a team. The important things aren't necessarily brand recognition. They're not necessarily um, that like the things that we build up in our heads.
Hmm. Yep. No, you're right. You're right. You're 100% right. I think it's also just, you know, I've told this story before, but some game developers end up being stand up comedians, right? Some game developers end up being in games. Some people that weren't in games end up in games by
Yep.
accident
Yep.
or unexpectedly and end up finding their happiness here. Some people who thought they would find their happiness in games end up leaving games because they don't find it,
Yep.
right? The more specific your dreams get, I think, the more at risk you are of disappointing yourself. And for some people, that's fine, right?
Yep.
Some people need that, like, guiding star that is exactly in the right position at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to aim at something like that. And I think that's fine as long as you accept that you might miss.
Yeah.
Right. And that if you aim for a star and you miss, that's a pretty big universe before you hit something else again. Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I think if you just sort of aim at a general region of space and you're like, I like this. This is sort of the direction I want to go in. But you also build your spaceship with thrusters that can turn you left and right.
Yeah.
You know, that you might end up somewhere that you didn't expect, that you didn't even know existed at any point in time. And I think it's safer for your emotional well-being as well. But at the same time, you know, whenever you do land somewhere that you're happy, being able to look back and be like, wow, look at all these little nudges and moments and difficult things, easy things, friends, everything that you made on the way there. It's a really special moment, like Fawzi was saying. So,
absolutely,
I don't know. It's I tried to build my spaceship with maneuverability, I guess. For some people, just a really big thruster on the back of the spaceship that goes straight forward. That for some people, that's the play.
Yeah,
I respect it. I wouldn't do it, but I respect it.
Sometimes I feel like my thrusters are pointing the wrong way, but that's a different topic.
No. Forwards. No. Why did I put the thrusters on the front again? I don't know.
So I have one last email to share, and then I think it's going to be time to wrap up the episode.
Okay.
So this is by Nicolas, and I pronounced it the French way for a reason. Nicolas says, I'm a white male dude, like there are millions in the games industry, but I grew up in Marseille in the south of France, where, as you may know, there are big Arab communities from Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, North Africa. So my childhood has been small family gatherings for Christmas, massive district-wide festivities for Ramadan. Eid was the real deal when it came to big celebrations, and I bathed in Arabic culture around my friends and my neighbors for years. And it goes on to say, so thank you very much to all three of you, friends of the podcast, as I find myself in what you're talking about, game dev, gaming-wise, and also a lot of the cultural side. I will, of course, never pretend to be of any Arabic cultural background. What I mean is, it was so fun recognizing my 8-year-old self when Rami was talking about sweating sugar during Eid al-Fitr, or aunties of my friends arguing over whose nephew is the best. So the podcast, yeah, absolutely. So the podcast is certainly the very first show to draw those two sides together, which parts of me felt would never happen. Thank you, Nicola. That was such a beautiful email, and that's a whole point of Eid, is like to share, not just with Muslims, but to share with everybody. And whenever you have a big enough community where Eid can actually overflow onto the streets, that's in the spirit of what Eid is.
That's how it should be, really.
Yeah, if only it could overflow into games like Animal Crossing.
Right, that'd be nice. Like, yeah, who would have thought? That would be so nice.
Hint,
what a good idea! Nudge. A game that keeps track of the real date with a real calendar and has the actual moon phases in the game already. Like, I don't know. Maybe Ramadan is just not a good fit for that game. I don't see how could we use the moon.
Maybe some YouTube celebrity will pay Nintendo 10,000K to get it added.
Nope. Just killing the subject right here. We're just moving on. We're not talking about the number 10,000 in any way, shape, or form.
Anyway,
except for 10,000 thanks to Nicola for that lovely email.
Beautiful email.
It's just, I think that's part of why we started this podcast in the first place, is that there was not really a home to talk about these things in the games industry, and we're seeing more of it, right? I think you were at an event this week.
Yes.
Of Arab game developers.
I was at Arab Games. Were you at Arab Games this week as well?
So I think I'm a little over. I'm very loud as like Arab in the games industry, and I think I talked to the organizers a bit, and we've sort of collaborated. I've been helping promote.
Good.
But I didn't want to be like very like visibly involved.
Yeah.
And I think the organization sort of agreed that it's time for other faces to also have
That is so
that
funny
spotlight.
because I did the
Uh,
same thing. I
right.
actually didn't sign up to be a speaker this time, which
Hmm.
usually would be my go-to. I signed up to be a
Right.
mentor. So I had
Right.
a big 3 hour block where I would take individual meetings of 15 minutes, look over reviews, look over portfolios and CVs to review them.
Right.
Resumes, sorry. I
Yeah.
understand that not everyone in the world says CVs, but still.
It's a good
Um,
word.
and yeah, and just make those connections. The thing is, a lot of the people who were reaching out were not in my discipline. They were programmers or they were artists.
Yeah,
So
design is not as common in the Arab world yet.
it just isn't. And I get that.
No,
And I didn't turn them away. What I'm going to do instead is connect them to people within the industry,
to the
hopefully.
right people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
No,
still,
I think that's
hopefully,
good.
people got something out of it.
Perfect.
But you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. It's time for other people to get the spotlight and to
Right.
rise and
Yeah,
shine.
for sure. And I think the organization was very understanding of that and was in agreement. So I love the event. I love that it's happening. I love that it's growing as well, and I'm excited to support it, but a little bit more in the background.
Yeah.
Not as the I don't want to be the poster of the event or anything.
Yeah. I think that's a good
Um,
call. Way to go.
but I have to say, from the region, there's been a lot of, and it's actually been really nice. Obviously, a lot of the people that come in for my consultancies that are Arabs also listen to the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Um, but one of the things that they picked up on is that my Arabic has gotten a little rusty.
Yeah, mine too.
Right, my Egyptian has gotten a little rusty for not having been to Egypt because of the military draft.
Hmm.
And so some of them are now talking to me in Arabic, and I'm just responding in English, or if I can, in Arabic
Hmm.
still.
Hmm.
It's been really good to just have that sort of just getting used again to people talking Arabic to me.
Hmm.
And not having like access to subtitles like on TV, or being able to like rewind or whatever. Like I always felt that back in school, learning French and German for me was much easier if it was talking to people
Yeah.
rather than like TV or music or whatever. So it's been really nice seeing a lot more game development in the Arab world, and also sort of an understanding and patience with me needing to relearn the language a little.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
it's funny. I still understand it well. I'm just nervous to speak it, and I'm not used to being nervous to talk.
Yeah.
Like my Arabic is fine. I don't like sounding like I don't know what I'm saying.
I actually could completely relate. I'm very out of practice. I could understand it perfectly. I could read pretty well, but I'm so out of practice that some of the consultation calls that people who came on the call didn't speak English.
Yeah,
And I managed, because when you don't have a choice, you don't have a choice, and you throw yourself in there. But
right.
sometimes I'd be like, "What's that word again?" And for like almost a minute
Yeah,
before it comes to me. And I haven't read Fawzi's book yet. Shame on me. So all the game design terms, I had to say them in English because I don't know
right,
what the
right,
equivalent is.
right.
So I was like, okay. So once in a while, I'm
Yeah,
like, and تحتاج game loop is the best I
yeah.
can come up with that, because I don't know what to say.
Thankfully, my reading is still pretty good, so I'm happy with that. But
Good.
my speaking definitely needs work. Like
Yeah.
I just too nervous, and for a public speaker, that is
Yeah.
not pleasant to be
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
What was the word again? Right?
Yeah, no, I get you. My French is better than my Arabic, and I really hesitate before giving talks in French. So
Right.
imagine, it's just it's a
Right.
different, like, you need to have a certain mastery before. That's why I have so much respect for anyone who gives a presentation in a language that isn't the language they speak the best.
Right.
Whenever I watch GDC talks and someone's speaking like struggling to make themselves understood in English, I have so much respect for that. That
Right.
takes courage.
Yeah.
That takes so
That
much
was
courage.
one of the things I learned from Game Dev, not Game Dev World, from One Reason to Be, the panel I used to organize at GDC. That a lot of people, it really takes effort to speak English for them, and I forget. I'm not a native English speaker. I don't think you are either.
No.
Right? But we've made this language so default to our existence that
Yep.
we might as well we're fluent, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Not native, but fluent. Like I think that's the thing I always feel with English is I'm fluent in the language, but not in the culture of it. Right? Like people make references to TV shows or things that happened in their childhood, and I'm like, that sounds about as alien to me as like Martians, right? But then again, I have the same problem with my Dutch friends because I grew up Dutch Egyptian, and I have the same problem with my Egyptian French in that I grew up Dutch Egyptian. So
that's so relatable, Rami. You have no idea.
Right. Anyway, do we have anything nice to say about Fawzi still?
Everything that's nice about Fawzi, we can say. We could spend another hour and 10 minutes talking.
We don't have
nice
an hour
things about Fawzi.
So let's just find one more nice thing about Fawzi.
Okay, so Fawzi is an excellent musician.
Okay, yeah.
I went there.
Yeah.
What about you?
Good. There's too many options.
Yeah, I know. I had to pick
There's
one.
too many options.
How are we going to pick I want to change my vote already.
How? Yeah, you want to change your vote?
Yeah, he's excellent at fighting games.
He is excellent, but he beat you at fighting games, so that's not even a.
Hey, no, I'm pretty good. He said so himself. He's just better. That's all.
Yeah, pretty good. Fawzi does a pretty good cosplay. You know that?
No, I did not know that.
Fawzi does a pretty good cosplay.
What should I Google? Fawzi as well.
You could just probably look at his Instagram or something.
All right, I'm gonna go stalk Fawzi for a bit. In a good way, you know.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like I said, handsome man. I hear you.
Oh hell yeah, his facial hair is on point.
Just good facial. That's the one.
Yeah,
that's the one.
The facial.
Fawzi has good facial hair.
Absolutely, very handsome.
That's it. That's it. Very. Mashallah. Anyway, so much for the Fawzi tribute, I think.
Yeah, I think that's it for this week. Thank you all for joining us. Is that the title of the episode?
I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll talk about it during the outro music. All right, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. As always, we appreciate it. If you send us your emails, we'll read them online. Join us on our Discord. We have a wonderful community. And take care. Salam. See you next week.
Salam. You think he uses like a lotion for his facial hair?
That's exactly what I was wondering.
I was thinking, right?
Because it definitely uses product. I don't believe that that's natural. And if it is, that is so unfair.
That's unfair. I mean, unfair. You know, good facial hair, like that happens for Arab men, but like it's also just it's really well kept.
Yes. The mark of good facial hair is facial hair on someone else that you want to touch with your hands. And that's definitely the case with Fawzi. You just sort of, twirl his mustache.
He does that thing with like the thin line down the side, and then it's like a pretty full beard frequently lower. Yeah. He also pulls the mustache. I can't pull the mustache.
Oh, I can't pull the mustache either. I have to have a thin mustache. Definitely.
Yeah, it works on him. It's not fair.
Whatever. It's all good. He has so many good qualities. Of course, he's also going to get this one. Right?
Fair. But also, like, it's still just like a dark beard. Like, how do you get to be a game developer for so long and still have like a fully just dark full beard? Like, that doesn't sound fair.
Dyes it. Because come on, the stress. Like everyone in games, they either lose their hair or their hair turns white like super quick. This literally.
He must die.